what happens when you take an edge developed carefully, scientifically for one market and put it on another, and it works. I quantify just that in today's REKTelligence report.
As a friendly reminder, everything in today's show is for informational purposes only. There is no investment advice given. All right, let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Dave. This is the All Markets Report where I quantify across asset classes with an eye to the week ahead. And this week, it's all about tech breakouts. Let's get into it. First, I'm going to start with this test periods map from my Crypto Traders Edge course. And if you're thinking, what does this have to do with tech breakouts right now in late April of 2026? The answer is cross-market testing. While I developed this edge and many other edges for Bitcoin and alts, the one I'm going to show you right now is working beautifully on tech ETFs. So let's get into this map first because it's going to be helpful to understand what we'll see next. So in sample period for the development of my Bitcoin edges was 2011. That's the start of reliable data in Bitcoin right through the end of 2021. Out of sample started 2022 and on. Remember, 2022 is a bear market. I wanted a very rough period to start my out of sample reserve data, and that's what I use. Now, that period ended in my development 2025 at the end of June. So everything from July of last year to the present is all live forward testing. Let's get into the details. Also, real quick, quite important, the REKTelligence score is an objective function. That's a fancy way of saying it's a unified, rolled up score, which includes profit factor, win rate, edge quality, return efficiency, which is how fast does capital turn over. That's important to a lot of active traders, and drawdown risk. The higher the score, the better. It's 0 to 100.
Traders, crypto is not a wild, unruly market. It's an asset class with 500% more time for price discovery and opportunity. My new course, Crypto Traders Edge, is now live through Algo Advantage, one of the top quant pods and academies out there. A full systematic framework, backtesting, strategy development, validation, real edges with full code, not hype. Links in the description or head to my Substack at REKTelligence. Now back to the show.
So let's start with Bitcoin before I get to the tech breakouts. Here are the stats, 2011 to the present. This, of course, combines the in-sample, out-of-sample, and live forward all in one here. Hit rate, 62.8%. Instances, 43. Average win, 22.8%. Average loss, 6.04%. Nice differential there. Average days in trade, 24. The longest trade, 73 days. And average percent per day, basically a 0.5%, slightly north of that, which is really excellent. The REKTelligence score, which is what I just explained, this is 82.1. This is an excellent R score, and it is statistically significant. The worst real max drawdown is 34.34% in this period. All right, let's look at some tech breakouts. I'll start with QQQ. And a reminder, this was not developed for any of these ETFs. This was developed in sample for Bitcoin, succeeded at a sample for Bitcoin. It's succeeding in live forward testing for Bitcoin. Let's now see what it looks like on tech. So we can see 2011 to the present, the hit rate here for the Qs, 49.3%. That doesn't sound great, south of 50% for a winning percent or hit rate, but this is very typical of a trend following strategy. Many successful trend followers have win percents or hit rates south of that number. Instances here is 67. The average trade is just south of 1%. Average win is 3.9. Average loss, negative 1.93. And we can see average days, 21.1, roughly a month. The R score here is not that impressive. And here we can see statistical significance is a no as per TradingView's on-screen metrics, which I have coded. The real max drawdown, 17.98%, pretty good for the Qs. Let's move to a different tech symbol. We've got XLK here, the hit rate 54.5%, around the same number of instances, 66. The average trade is roughly 1% again, not amazing, but average days very much resembles the Qs here, 20.7. And the R score, roughly the same again, 44. Again, not statistically significant. Let's move to ARKW, an ARK fund. We can see the hit rate here is the lowest that we've seen, 43.5%. Instances 46. Average win, 13.9%. Average loss, just negative 2.67%. Average trade, 4.53%. Really respectable. And the average days, again, just over a month at 22.1. Longest days in trade, 82 sessions. And the R score here is 70.9. That is super respectable. I like to trade REKTelligence scores in the 70s and up generally. And we can see also this is statistically significant. Worst real max drawdown, 26.3%, and that was in 2024. Let's take a closer look at ARKW. It takes about 20 seconds to bring TradingView's export file into Strategy Analyzer, and then you are set and you are looking at a whole suite of analytics. Here's the overview. We've covered some of these stats for ARKW. I'll just point out the annualized return here is 16.16%. That is pretty sweet in my opinion. Profit factor, very healthy at 3.507, and some other stats we've already covered that are attractive. Let's look at statistical significance in Strategy Analyzer, which is much more complete than we saw with my on-screen metrics in TradingView. And we can see the p-value here, 0.0228. This is a less than 5% chance that these results are due to noise. That is good. And again, this passes the significance test. In fact, it passes both of them in Strategy Analyzer. We're just looking at the standard t-test. Let's look at the Monte Carlo. This is 1,000 simulations using the Monte Carlo Edge robustness mode, and that also includes sample replacement. You can see the actual result here of the original backtest is cumulative return, 466 and change percent, max drawdown, 20.91%. as defined by TradingView, and profit factor 3.507 as we've covered. Now go down to the median row here, and we can see the results are very similar, 466. This is the middle path out of all 1,000 simulations. It's almost exactly the same. We can see the max drawdown is in fact less at negative 18.02%, and the profit factor is actually higher with the median than the actual backtest at 4.007. That's actually a good characteristic. If we stress test the results and look down to the 95th percentile, we're looking at the worst result essentially out of 950 of the 1,000 simulations. We can see it's still positive. Now, we've lost some of that return, naturally, 87.07% total return. Max drawdown, as defined by TradingView, negative 32.94%, certainly reasonable for a stress-tested max drawdown. And the profit factor is still basically around 2. I shouldn't say still around 2. It's impressively around 2. Even at this stress tested level, 1.988, really excellent. Now, the worst observed return is negative. So the edge did fall apart at the very worst run, and you can see a steeper drawdown, negative return, and obviously a profit factor below 1. A quick look at Strategy Analyzer's risk-return distribution shows all 1,000 simulated paths, just like we saw in the table, but now we're seeing visualized on a scatter plot. The blue square is the actual backtest, pretty much in the middle, and you can see all the distributions around it. Look at the bottom, however. That's what I want to point out. 4 out of 1,000 of these paths were unprofitable, right? We looked at the worst result, but 4 of the results, 4 of all 1,000 were unprofitable. All of the others, of course, were profitable. And this is good to know. You can always see that at the bottom of this plot in Strategy Analyzer. All right, guys, if you want to see the logic driving a lot of Bitcoin edges, we didn't look at altcoins, but a lot of altcoin edges, and of course, the tech edges we've seen today, which are cross-market from crypto to tech. Check out my Crypto Traders Edge course, full code, money back guarantee for a certain window of time, and much more. All on my website, tradingfromparadise.com. You can also find info about my Strategy Analyzer app. That is coming soon. Intro rate is available. Again, tradingfromparadise.com. Thanks for watching today's All Markets Report. I will be back on Thursday with my Edge Report, where I quantify specific opportunities in stocks, ETFs, crypto, and sometimes beyond. Until then, trade smart, live well, and cheers from the Caribbean.